It's almost uncanny the extent to which Nietzsche foresaw the problems that people in society, and particularly men, would face today. And although his texts can be difficult to understand, almost incomprehensible on the surface, the more you dive into them and the more interpretations you discover, you realize that Nietzsche not only diagnosed the issues that young men would face today, but he also provided several cures. And in today's video, I want to break these down into 5 different elements that you can easily understand whether you've read Nietzsche or not. In many ways, Nietzsche's philosophy is an antidote to the passivity that has infected so many men today. He predicted the softness in society, this malaise, this feeling of ennui that so many of us experience. But Nietzsche believed in great men. He believed in the ability of man to accomplish tremendous things, whether they were feats of creativity, physical strength, or intellectual accomplishment. Hello, my name is James, and I am on a mission to create a generation of gentlemen. The first lesson we should learn from Friedrich Nietzsche is the will to power. Now, as soon as people hear the words power and Nietzsche together, they start having images of Nazi rallies, a fascist dictator exerting his power over weaker people. But this is a very misguided misinterpretation. What Nietzsche really meant by the will to power was the will to develop one's abilities and one's talents to the extent that they became a personal form of superpower. This is the artist perfecting his skill of painting or sculpture so that whatever comes to his mind, whatever divine inspiration he finds, he can bring that to life. That is his power. Rather than getting caught up in everyday humdrum activities, Nietzsche believed that a man should concentrate his efforts and become a true master of his chosen craft. And he believed that a man should not apologize for having desires, for having very ambitious goals. However, he did believe that in order for a goal to be worthy, it had to meet one of 4 criteria. So think about your current goal and see if it fits into these categories. Is it 1, meaningful and challenging? Is it 2, promoting health and well-being, either for yourself or for others? 3, is this goal in attainment of personal excellence? Does it make you better? And 4, is it a self-chosen goal? Because if you are striving to attain mastery over a domain that you don't personally care for, yet you feel like your parents or society has pressured you into pursuing it, that is not a worthy goal. And no matter how good you become at said thing, you will never be truly powerful. Nietzsche also had this idea that he called the circle of power. The idea is that the process of achieving one's goal is more important and actually more fulfilling than achieving it. And for that reason, we must never feel like we are truly done or accomplished in life. We must always find new challenges. This is why so many people retire. They think that they've worked all their life to sit around on a beach drinking pina coladas, and then they feel this incredible sense of dissatisfaction. That's because as humans, we need to always be in pursuit of goals. The second lesson Nietzsche taught us about masculinity is becoming the Ubermensch. Nietzsche believed that a truly great man must rise above society's mediocre expectations. And to some extent, this might involve rejecting society's moral values and seeking your own. For example, if you're a man in your mid to late 20s, you might be climbing the corporate ladder. You got the degree that was expected of you, you got the job that your parents would have wanted you to get. And you've done everything right by the book. But a few years in, you start to feel this incredible sense of dissatisfaction. You always thought that you would achieve more in life. You always thought that you were capable of doing more. That is your inner Ubermensch calling out. The problem is, as humans, we have this intrinsic desire for comfort. And typically when we achieve what's expected of us by what Nietzsche would call the herd, we are rewarded with great comfort. And in order to become the Ubermensch, this typically involves going through a period of danger and discomfort. This is like the man who quits his $80,000 a year tech job because he has a dream of becoming an entrepreneur. And in the first couple of years, he's living off ramen noodles, sleeping on a mattress on the floor. And in some regards, society might look at him as having downgraded, having slipped down the ladder. But when he has his own values, he can see that he is truly becoming his own Ubermensch. And if we ignore this calling to a higher purpose, if we instead exist for comfort and security, then we will become what Nietzsche would describe as the last man. And I would say that Nietzsche's writings on this topic are rather prophetic of the society that we now exist in. Because the last man pursues comfort. He avoids danger. He trudges through the day-to-day in a mediocre state. Anything to avoid rocking the boat or posing a danger or threat to his current existence. And this is the guy who works his 9 to 5 because it pays just enough to cover the bills, just enough for him to go out and get drunk every weekend and forget about his Monday to Friday, just enough to pay for his fast food, his Netflix subscription. All of these things that really give you a dose of comfort, but no fulfillment. Nietzsche suggested that as we become our higher selves, there are 3 metamorphoses, and he used the metaphors of animals to describe these. At first, we have the camel. The camel is very reliable. The camel is very good at carrying a burden. But the camel never challenges the status quo or does anything great. Most people never really get out of the camel stage. But the next step beyond that would be the lion. Now, the lion is a very destructive force. It tears down the status quo, but it doesn't necessarily create anything new. And that's where we come on to the final stage in this journey, which Nietzsche very interestingly called the child. And the reason he used the metaphor of the child rather than something ferocious like a lion or a wolf is because the child is creative. The child creates and discovers new things and constantly grows. And Nietzsche certainly saw creativity as one of the highest pursuits that a man can undertake. I don't have any tattoos, and I've never considered getting one. But if I had to have one tattoo, it would be this, Amor Fati, which translates to love thy fate, or love of one's fate. And this is Nietzsche's 3rd lesson about masculinity. A lot of people get comfort from the idea that everything happens for a reason. But Amor Fati is not about believing that everything happens for a reason. It's more finding reason, finding meaning in the things that have happened to you. And this means that you have to embrace challenges and setbacks on your journey. A fighter only gets better when he faces a tougher opponent. And the same can be said for our personal growth, facing challenges in life. Amor Fati is perhaps the most positive element of Nietzsche's philosophy. Regrets can be incredibly soul-sapping. They drain us of that life force that we need to move forward and create great things. But Nietzsche's concept of Amor Fati not only removes the sense of regret, but it even creates a feeling of love for everything that has happened to you. That's why it literally means love your fate. All of the experiences, both positive and negative in your life, have led you to this point. And they've left you with a particular set of strengths and wisdom. So love those experiences for giving you those gifts, even if they were hard at the time. The 4th lesson Friedrich Nietzsche taught us about masculinity is the importance of struggle. And we've seen this concept played out in movies like The Matrix, Fight Club, Don't Worry Darling, and even classic novels like Brave New World. With this concept, we are presented with 2 choices. We can either seek comfort and temporary pleasure, or we can seek a possibility of greater danger, greater discomfort, yet much more fulfillment. And Nietzsche even went as far as to say that those who seek comfort, those who prefer to stay coddled in the security of modern life, they are actually life deniers. Yet those who seek challenges, those who deliberately discover discomfort in order to grow, they are life affirmers. I don't think Nietzsche could have predicted just how manufactured our society would be toward comfort these days. But if he did, I'm sure he would describe it as a trap. And Nietzsche would likely say that everything from adult videos to your BMW is a trap. And I think it would be almost impossible to live a modern life fully rejecting comfort. We still want to live in an apartment. We still want to wear clothes that are warm. We still want food that nourishes us. But the important thing is that we deliberately seek out discomfort. And I think this is why so many men are now getting into things like cold plunges, sauna, working out, because these are things that we can deliberately do to create discomfort. And everybody who has pursued these things knows that the initial discomfort, our initial instinctive emotional reaction of aversion, is greatly overshadowed and overpowered by the great sense of fulfillment and accomplishment that we have afterwards. The final lesson that Nietzsche gave us about masculinity is to reject the herd mentality. There are many societal norms and morals today that can restrict a man's potential. I wonder if there is a single man out there that has achieved success, that has accomplished what he wanted in life, who has never been accused of being a narcissist by somebody. And it's because society has developed this moral framework that's like a coping mechanism for the unsuccessful. So for those people, it's much easier to have disdain for the wealthy. It's easier to have a distrust and dislike of the beautiful. And today we see this morality played out on a political scale for the first time in human history. And even if you lean toward progressive politics, I'm sure that you can see how wokeism and DEI are all promoting this herd mentality and this slave morality, because these systems don't reward excellence, they don't reward merit, and they challenge the ability of an individual like yourself to make your own moral judgments and judgments about people's abilities and the value that they provide. So Nietzsche would fully wish for you to reject this mentality. Instead, develop your own moral compass. There may be some element of crossover with wider Judeo-Christian morals. I'm sure there will be a great deal of crossover. However, don't forget that morality can be used as a coping mechanism for deficiency. It's like, why do many poor people demonize the wealthy, yet they go out and buy a lottery ticket every week in order to try and become wealthy? So, gentlemen, I'm very interested to know how many of these ideas resonated with you. Do you believe that Nietzsche's teachings lay a path for a young man to follow? Or do you instead believe that Nietzsche's writings are misguided and perhaps believe that a different philosopher would offer a better remedy? Either way, I want you to let me know how you feel down in the comments. Gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed today's video, and I look forward to seeing you all on the next one.